So number one, I will just start with the sanctuary first. So we agreed we would like to face east and that we would have the focal point of the sanctuary be the stained glass windows that are already there. We also agreed that it was very important to have something that was flexible and movable so that we could accommodate the more weekly services and then again the high holy day services when we have everybody else. Overwhelming agreement that we do need to lower our bima and make it more accessible. How low is the perfect way? We weren't sure, but we definitely were very concerned that we always keep the ability to see from many different angles the various different people that will be leading services and engaging in services up on the bima, and also for those to be able to see down into the congregation. The movable chair idea that we heard in the presentation, again, we thought that was an excellent idea. We would like to have movable chairs, but not the movable benches. The concern was that it doesn't get messy and we do them the right way so that they connect and they kind of stay, so that if people are getting up and back and moving, that they weren't sort of making noise and moving all over the place and they looked messy. More natural light was very, very important throughout the entire space from north to south. And so we agreed with putting in the large windows at the top so that we could look out onto the trees, and that we should have some sort of light also that goes coming in from the south. Let's see here. There was some really good ideas around having glass, but because of the vision and being distracted from the street and looking out onto the parking lots and other types of things, that maybe we could use something like stained glass. That may work, it may not, but we wanted to throw it out there. And that we do need to reposition the stained glass windows so that they're more sort of centered. When we were talking about the bima and people looking at the service, it was important to make sure that we had a space for the chorus, for the choir. The choir should be looking out onto the congregation and not necessarily sitting within the congregation, which was an idea that was proposed. One of the big issues that we had with regard to the whole sound system was to make sure that everybody in the congregation felt empowered by the people leading the service and by the song and the music. And one of the ways you can do that is that it will be set up sort of like these wedges here, so that there would be people on all sides, but not in the back. And so that way, it also increases, everybody kind of feels involved. And again, you kind of keep these alleys so people could see in. We wanted to make sure, again, it was a great idea that when you look in the chapel, you're looking out and you see the stained glass and you see the bima, but we didn't necessarily want latecomers coming into the sanctuary to be distracting and to stop the bat mitzvah children on the bima or anything else. So we thought we would have, again, keep that idea of a main entranceway that can kind of be sort of closed down when a service starts, and ushers would then sort of move people to go in and out on the sides so that you could still access the sanctuary from the sides and it would be less distracting. We talked about the idea of visual tefillah, mostly both definitely from an inclusion perspective, so that some people cannot necessarily follow along with the service from reading a prayer book for many different reasons and might do better looking at two screens. So that was very important. How you incorporate that, is that every day, is that sometimes, that obviously needs a lot of detail to hash out. But we also thought it was very, very important going into the future that we have the ability for live streaming, and so that, especially in terms of funerals and other big services, people who can't necessarily come won't feel left out. So we want to have, again, bringing in the idea of technology, the ability to do that. The social hall, obviously we all agreed it needs to be better looking and that we need redoing the ceiling will be very important for that, and we will take away the stage but we do need to keep the idea of storage. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to hopefully bring in South Light. We love the idea initially of moving the chapel to the back, but after further discussions, one of the key features of the social hall is to bring in more revenue and to want people to rent it out. So Mike was talking about that it might not actually logistically work, having the chapel, social hall, and then the sanctuary, just in terms of setup and stuff like that. So that may not work, unfortunately. We might have to find somewhere else for the chapel. One of the big decisions that we will have, which everybody takes very seriously, is that right now what will be the social hall is being used during the ECE, during bad weather, for the kids to come inside and play. And they're not just sitting around and playing games on the floor, they're riding bikes and they're doing different things, and it can get a little bit messy, and things can, easily scratch up walls and things like that. So while we know the ECE is extremely important to the synagogue, we don't want anything to hinder the ability for us to rent out this space or to have the space being set up or things like that. So we have to really, really think about this, where we can put, if anywhere else, the play area for the kids, which is important. We threw out the idea of maybe covering the playground outside. Right now it's open. Maybe we can cover it somehow or something. We weren't sure. We were wondering if somehow we can use the community room, make that bigger. There's a lot of little hidden nooks and crannies down there that we may necessarily not need, and maybe we can use that space as well. And last but not least, we also talked about the idea of having a memorial space, which is very important, if somehow that can be fit in or not. There were a lot of other good ideas, so we leave it to there.